I'm Michael Salinger. This is Sarah Holbrook. We're here with Tim Rasinski and Melissa Cheesman Smith, and we're going to talk a little bit about fluency, a little bit about comprehension, and a little bit about poetry.
We are. Michael and I are both poets and educators, and we want Tim and Melissa to introduce themselves too.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Michael and Sarah, for inviting us to participate in this. We're big fans of your poetry, so this is natural for us. If you don't mind some selfless promotions, shameless promotion, I guess, Melissa and I are the author of the Megabook of Fluency. We're not modest at all in terms of our title here, but we know that poetry really offers some great opportunities for kids to develop as readers. Melissa?
Yeah, I'm a classroom teacher and have written some books with Timothy Rasinski, and I've also been using Sarah's and Michael's poetry in my classroom for many years. I teach 5th grade, and Tim and I have been working professionally together for a lot of years, and I use a lot of his fluency strategies and ones that we've created together also. So we're happy to be here.
And we're working on a new teacher resource that uses poetry that starts in it. And Sarah's got some questions for you too, because we're going to go to the experts.
We are. So I was having a conversation with a curriculum director last week, and I said to her, repeated reading of poetry leads to fluency. And she said, I'd like to see some research on that. And I said, well, you need to read Rasinski and Smith. And so we want to pose a couple questions to you. And one is, I've heard you say many times that rereading leads to reading fluency. So how do you get kids to reread the same material?
Right, that's a great question. Right now, in the age of dibbles, we have kids reading something over and over again for the purpose of reading fast, and that's not a very authentic purpose. For me, it's the idea, and Melissa also, it's the idea of performance. If you're going to perform something, you're going to rehearse. The rehearsal is just, I think, a more authentic name for repeated reading. So we think of those kinds of texts that are meant to be performed, and at the top of our list is poetry, meant to be performed with expression and enthusiasm and joy. And so it's just a natural. Melissa, what do you think?
Right, when kids have to focus on expression, we don't have to tell them to reread the text. They just automatically do that. And every time they do that, it's sort of like a skill drill would be for if you're playing soccer. It's that creating that muscle memory. When you do something over and over and over again, your brain becomes more automatic with it. And so that leads to fluency.
And I think that poetry lends itself to reading because poetry is so layered with meaning that that every reading may give you a little more insight to it. So there's an authentic reason to reread poetry. Like, Sarah, tell us what you say about reading a paragraph, Sarah Holbrook.
Oh, right. I want to reread this paragraph 6 times, said no kid ever. But they will reread home, particularly if they know they're going to be performing it for an audience, even if it's just the audience is just their dog.
Exactly. And we know that even as adults, we know that we can get new meaning every time we read. And the concentration of just literary elements and vocabulary that's within a poem, you don't have to do a whole lot of digging to find the lesson in the poem, because the poem is a mini lesson in itself a lot of times.
I'm glad you brought up vocabulary, because I think if the text is short, kids are more likely to look up 1 or 2 words than if they have 2 pages of text. But let's turn this over to the PhD. What do you say?
No, you're absolutely right. When you talk about meaning, poetry is just filled with meaning. I often note the metaphor that poets put into their texts. And you mentioned something about Sarah and Michael about the brevity of poetry. When you're talking about kids who struggle in reading, sometimes they're overwhelmed by a text that is 5 or 6 or 10 pages long. Anybody can master a short poem of 10, 12, 16 lines and feel like they've actually accomplished something. So it really is almost, to me, the perfect text for struggling readers.
It gives all kids a chance for success. We think.
Right.
Yeah. What do you find with your students, Melissa?
Speaking of vocabulary, I think that when words are hard in in maybe a content area text, kids push away from it. But if there's a couple of fun new words in poetry, it has the opposite effect for kids. It's like, oh, that's a fun word to say, and now I know it. And I'm a good reader because this is a new word, and it's kind of maybe a long one or a different one that I can say and I can know. And they have to learn it so they can use the expression for it when they're performing it. So it's so key for vocabulary poetry. So great.
Excellent. So I think we're in agreement that poetry is basically a good thing.
Oh,
And a good way to get kids to reread.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, that looks like that's
a take.
a take.
Melissa, what time is it there? Is it